Paul Moore elskar áhættusum áhugamál og fullyrðir að þau haldi áhættustjóranum í sér við efnið í vinnunni. Hann varaði bankan við stórum áhættum á fjármálasviðinu. En já, hvað eiginlega hægt að segja?
But my precise words were as follows. I strongly recommend that the board reconsiders its strategy for sales growth if it wishes to avoid risks to customers and colleagues. There was a pause, because this was an arrow right at the heart of the strategy. And after the pause, the chairman said, "Good," he said. "Finally, we've got ourselves a head of risk who will tell us what we need to hear. Thank you, Paul." And as I walked out of the room, under my breath, I said, "Thanks be to God, they've got it." And then the chairman allowed the chief executive to fire me. So there you go.
Did it come as a surprise that you were
It came
fired?
as a huge surprise. I couldn't believe that he'd fired me. It was, well, in fact, you know that feeling that you get when something happens that you least expect, and you get this great big shot of adrenaline in your heart. That's what it was like when he told me that he was firing me.
And do you believe the people at the top of the bank really didn't know about the risks they were taking?
I think some of the very top people knew exactly what was going on. I really believe that. And in the work I've done since I went public, I'm convinced that people knew what was going on. Yeah.
And why do you think they didn't speak up?
Because they were making a fortune out of it. And they didn't care.
4 árum seinna kom í ljós að hann hafði haft rétt fyrir sér. Það þurfti að koma bönkunum til bjargar. Þá ákvað hann að brjóta þagmælsku ákvæðið í samningi sínum og reyna að opinbera málið. Hann gerðist Klokkenluider, uppljóstrari, eða eins og þeir segja á ensku, Whistleblower.
After I went public, when I blew the whistle publicly to the media in October 2008, just as the banking crisis hit and the bank that I'd worked for, HBOS, collapsed, obviously there was a lot of media coverage, and I received in the post this whistle in an envelope, and it had a compliment slip in it, and all it said was, "From an anonymous admirer," which tells you everything you need to know about the relationship between people and whistleblowers. People are schizophrenic. They want them and they support them, but they don't want to get too close. So he or she didn't want their name written. And on the side of it, it actually says, "Dulce et decorum est pro patria testari." And that means it's sweet and honourable to speak up on behalf of your fatherland or your country. But it's got a fantastic sound. Listen to this. There you go.
Flautan hans Paul Moore ef til vill ekki hljómsterk, en þegar hann byrjar að tala fær ekkert hann stöðvaðan. Hvers vegna finna bankamenn ekki til iðrunar? Hann telur að svarið við þeirri spurningu megi finna í huga fyrrum samstarfsmanna sinna.
They're the sort of people that when they're children, they pull the wings off flies. Because there's something missing. It's actually a mental health issue, so I actually have a compassion for them. But don't put them in the boardrooms, for God's sake. Because if you put them in the boardrooms, forget the regulation, nobody will stop them.
Can you describe the culture of the bank at the time?
The culture was a mixture of, over-vibrant revving of the engine in order to hit targets, accompanied by hit people over the head if they don't hit it. So there was a cultural indisposition to challenge. Anybody said, hang on, you're going to blow the engine up, chop their head off. The chief executive of Lehman Brothers, his nickname was the Gorilla. He had his own private lift. When he was asked close to the crisis what he thought about the short sellers of Lehman stock, do you know what he said? I want to reach in, rip out their hearts and eat them before they die. Okay? The chief executive of Credit Suisse, ALF, stood for arrogant little, the F word. The chief executive of Morgan Stanley, Mac the Knife. Stanley knife? Mac the Knife. So I'm afraid we have got into a habit of promoting ruthless, dishonest, narcissistic people to the top of societally important organisations.
Þessir ruthless, dishonest and narcissistic bankers þurftu svo að útskýra hvað hefði farið úrskeiðis.
We are profoundly, and I think I would say unreservedly, sorry.
I made a full apology, unreserved apology, both personally and on behalf of the board, and I'm very happy to repeat that this morning.
Einstakt sjónvarpsefni. Samúð að þér virtist.
Tom's comments that I'm very sorry what's happened at HBOS. It has affected shareholders, many of whom are colleagues. It's affected the communities in which we live and serve. It's clearly affected taxpayers, and we are extremely sorry for the turn of events that's brought it about.
They didn't say sorry. That's not sorry. They were saying, sorry we found ourselves in the circumstances that we did. That was the nature of their apology, not I've thought about exactly what I did and my part to play in it. This is precisely what I did. This is why it was wrong. I am terribly sorry for the hurt that it's caused to everybody else. I am now going to spend the rest of my days with my wealth trying to make up for what I did. That's a sorry.
Kannski stærsti munurinn á Paul Moore og fyrrum yfirmönnum hans sá að hann trúir að fólk eigi að taka ábyrgð á eigin gjörðum. Að til sé einhvers konar æðri máttur. Á meðan líta hans gömlu samstarfsmenn ef til vill á sjálfa sig sem hið æðsta vald.
Do you think the bankers themselves believed they were worth the fortunes that they were earning?
Yes, I do. I think many of them do think they're worth it, but that's because I think they've lost all perspective on things. And I can tell you, banking is the simplest business on the planet. It's a jolly sight easier than being a nurse or a midwife, and it is absolutely outrageous that a chief executive should get paid £10 million a year or whatever it is. And anything that I can do to stop that. By the way, I'm not against entrepreneurs who put their own capital at risk, making substantial amounts of capital. By the way, they never pay themselves big salaries. You'll never see an entrepreneur pay themselves a big salary. Whereas these people, they take no capital risk. By the way, there's only a bonus, there's not a malus. So, for example, if they don't perform, they don't get money taken away from them. The whole system of remuneration is a scandal. It's been built up over decades. Here's a remuneration committee. They appoint a supposedly independent compensation consultant, and guess what? The pay goes up and up. If you look at the numbers, it is literally ridiculous.